Welcome to Mission to Inspire, where we share life experiences in our careers, personal lives, society, culture, religion, finance, family, and much more. Meet your host, Shola Ajibade, as she takes you on a ride to fuel your inspiration.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mission to Inspire. My name is Shola, and we have a wonderful guest with us here today. For a very long time now, all my guests, they've all been from all over the world, so especially America. But today we have someone from the UK, and she's from Scotland. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Shola. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. And also, we are delighted to have you on our show.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Today, we will be actually talking about finding clarity and direction in nature. And you will see how that actually relates to the topic and the discussions and the conversation we're having today, because I don't want to, blow the bubbles. I'll leave that to Alison to talk about when she's introducing herself. But today we're gonna sit down, as we sit now, and listen to Alison, a seasoned coach and speaker with a unique approach that uses nature as a powerful metaphor for life's challenges. So that's what we'll be doing today. I will implore you all to join us as we dive into Alison's inspiring journey, the insights she shares in our book, Can't See the Wood for the Trees. So she'll be talking about that today, and how she helps individuals navigate life's complexity by redirecting them with the wisdom of the natural world. So I'll leave that to Alison to talk about. Oh, before I forget, she's also a podcaster like myself. And the title of our podcast is Landscaping Your Life with Alison Smith. So she will talk about that as well today. And I'll leave the floor for Alison. But before I do, just as normal, our tradition, we would ask you some questions, this or that, just to know you better. So our first question is, because you're a coach, and I know you're also a speaker, so which one do you prefer, pen and paper or digital notes?
Depends what I'm doing, but if I'm writing my poetry, then it's definitely pen and paper. Can't do it straight onto an iPad. But most everything else, I'm quite happy to do it digitally. But yeah, poetry, creative thinking, definitely pen and paper.
Pen and paper. Okay, right. All right then. Writing or speaking?
It's like asking which kid's your favorite one. Speaking, I think. Speaking.
Okay. All right. Hiking or cycling? I don't know if you do any.
Well, I've got arthritic knees, but I've got a new knee, and then the other one will need replacing at some point. But so hiking, definitely. I'm able to walk more now. So if you'd have asked me about a year ago when I'd just had my new knee, then it wouldn't have been either of those.
Okay, city life or country living? I know you're in Scotland.
Yeah, no, I've never really lived in a city other than when I went to university. Definitely being able to look out the window and see countryside, definitely.
Okay. Where did you attend your uni?
Nottingham.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So that wasn't a huge city,
Yeah.
I've kept it from the Midlands upwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you watch movies, but are you a Netflix Bing or movie night at the cinema?
Yeah, definitely a Netflix binge. Especially if I'm a bit out of sorts, it's like, oh my God, like Downton Abbey. Oh my God, let's just watch all that. So yeah, so definitely, because cinemas I find uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah, so I can sit there and fidget for a bit, but I can sit on my sofa and binge watch for a few hours. So yeah, definitely sofa Netflix binge.
All right, okay. Yoga or meditation?
Yoga, so long as my knees will let me do what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, yoga.
Yoga. Lastly, classical music or rock and roll?
Oh, neither. I'm really not that into listening to music, so I'm afraid I'm so boring. It's middle of the road,
Oh,
easy
God.
listening.
Oh,
So
my
rock and
goodness.
roll, yeah, no.
No. Oh, so none. So
So
what? So you don't listen to any music at all?
no, it's really, it's like I never have music on when I'm working. I forget, to be fair, that certain tunes have the ability to get me out of. So actually, I do have an answer. Musicals.
Musicals. I love musicals as
Yeah. So
well.
if I was to listen to anything, or if I went out to something
Mhm.
of an evening that was musically related, it would definitely be a
A
musical.
musical. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like musicals too because of it's got some drama input into it, which makes it more exciting and interesting.
Yeah. There'll be a favourite song from every musical that I can sing at the top of my voice, and certainly if I'm feeling out of sorts, 11 o'clock at night, the neighbours would hear me because
Oh
I'd be
my
there.
God.
You see what I mean? It's that whole, oh, I need to shift my mood. Oh yeah, let's listen to Defying Gravity from Wicked. Yeah.
Oh God, that's interesting. Thank you so much for answering those questions. So we feel we know you a little bit
Cool.
better now. Okay, we're gonna go straight into the interview questions. And our first question would be, we just want you to tell us about your background, basically.
Well, let's go back to that Nottingham University. I went from there, I'll go quickly because there's quite a few years since then, but went into procurement, purchasing, and I still do a bit of purchasing consultancy, but in the late 90s, we were trying to encourage other managers in the business to pay attention to looking after suppliers, and they were yawning and just going, yeah, we know what you're talking about, and they weren't, and it suddenly dawned on me that, oh, hang on a minute. So we did a workshop where we just talked about garden design
Yeah.
and asked them about, what do you need? What do flourishing plants need? And they go, oh, watering and feeding and pruning and, time in the greenhouse. And I went, so do the suppliers. And it's as if a pin could drop in the room and everybody went, oh, that's why we're having, oh my God, yeah, that supplier, we've plonked that supplier in the corner of the garden. We're ignoring them. We're not watering them. Is that any wonder that we're now having problems with the supplier? So it opened my mind up to the power of metaphor to take somebody from being very resistant and, no, this is how the world is. I'm right. There is no other way of looking at the world, and realizing that if you use metaphor, they have the power to get around the blocks we put up with. Really helpful for me. I'm a bit resistant to being given advice, so it's like, oh, that's a useful technique for me. And so then what happened was, very quickly the metaphor went from gardening being a metaphor for looking after suppliers to landscapes, or nature's landscapes more generally, being a metaphor for our lives, particularly when we're stuck. And then since 2000, I've just added bells and whistles to the different tools and techniques you could do in order to, how do you use nature to get unstuck, basically. And therefore that's what the podcast's about. So every
Okay.
every episode is going out into nature with a specific problem in mind and seeing what nature has to offer in terms of a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the coaching's about. I've started to do some workshops around all of that as well in businesses. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's
So,
grown arms and legs.
yeah, it has gone into different dimensions. So
Mm.
you started back in the university.
Mm.
Hmm. That is so interesting. So, how has your unique background then? How has it actually helped? You know, how has your unique perspective using nature as a metaphor, which you've already spoken about for life, influenced your coaching and speaking?
I think where
So we
I've
know
got
we know
to,
how you've started your business.
yeah, I think what happened was, it is initially
Yeah.
using nature would just be one of the tools that I'd use, and perhaps not one that I'd use all the time.
Okay.
And then over time, I realized people were coming to me because of my unique tools, and
Right.
therefore, they could go to another coach. They'd more than likely possibly been to other coaches. So I think what's happened is that more and more, it's the nature, it's the metaphor that I use, because, and I suppose over time, I just notice it in people's language anyway. So they come, they say a few sentences, and I go, oh, that's an interesting metaphor, and we'll use that. So
Right.
I've just got more comfortable with realizing it works for the majority of people, and I love it. So why wouldn't I use those tools that I
Those
love and
tools
get
that you
excited about?
exactly.
And I know not lots of people are using it.
Mm, mm. Wow. Let's go to your podcast, Landscaping Your Life with Alison. So you focus on helping people get back on track when they feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share some memorable successes story?
Yeah, yeah. The the whole premise, I suppose what happened was I use nature in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
But one of the ways that I noticed was that when we're stuck,
Mm-hmm.
we will use a metaphor. So we'll use an idiom, including nature anyway. So we'll be can't see the wood for the trees,
Mm-hmm.
stuck in a rut, going round in circles, out on a limb, treading water. So basically we identify with those idioms. And so what I realized was, oh, hang on a minute, you've given me a metaphor that makes sense for you and describes the current situation. And although you're using it to describe the stuck situation,
Yeah.
I say the metaphor can be used to find the solutions. So if you can't see the wood for the trees,
Mm-hmm.
let's park the real life situation. We'll send it on a coffee break. We're giving it a break. When we're going to just go metaphorical for a minute,
Yeah.
and we're going to go and explore in a wood. So if you can't see the wood for the trees, let's go into the wood. And so what I've done in each episode of the podcast is I don't go out with a guest. I just go for me, and I'll go, right, we're covering treading water today, and I'll go in the sea here in Scotland. Or it's an uphill struggle, I'll go and struggle up a hill and find out what I can learn
Right.
from how not to struggle up a hill.
Mm.
Or between a rock and a hard pace, turning corners, crossroads. And what I've discovered, and I suppose use more and more, is if we can embody and go out into nature and sort of notice what we notice in that environment, we'll find solutions. So one of the examples is somebody, in fact, it was a coaching session. So it's not quite the podcast, but it is an example of how I've used it. So it was somebody over in Florida. I'm here, they're walking around in nature, they're resonating with not being able to see the wood for the trees. And they're in a wood, and they're sort of walking through the wood, they're getting insight as they are doing. And then I said, so where do you want to get to? And they said, and they were able to point, and we're really, well, I want to go there. Absolutely, I want to go there. And it was the other side of the wood. And oh, okay. So why are you worrying about the wood? Why are you getting distracted by the wood? And what they realized was they absolutely knew, in this instance, they absolutely knew where they wanted the business to go.
Yeah.
But they were getting distracted by, oh, this might not be the right thing, or is this the new shiny thing that I need to do? And so what they realized was they did know where they wanted to go, and they were allowing themselves to get distracted. And so the action plan was, how do I not get distracted by this, that, and the other, and focus on what I want to have happen? Now, I have found that to be the solution for over half the people who can't see the wood for the trees. Most people who can't see the wood for the trees know what they want to do. It's just that it's a bit like you're walking through a wood and you come and you know that you're going to follow this path. You know, this path has got the signpost to go to where you're going, and then you get to a crossroads and go, oh, perhaps that direction's more exciting. Oh, I might go down that path just to see if that's more exciting than where I want to go. And we absolutely allow ourselves to get distracted, even though it's like, no, I know where I want to go. So I think that's what happens. It's like we take the pattern with us. So somebody the other week was at a crossroads, or thought they were at a crossroads. And we were in the botanical gardens, loads of paths, so loads of crossroads that I could keep going. So what's your decision? You're at a crossroads, make the decision. And they kept making the decision to go down a path that hadn't got a sign down it. And they got huge insight for them about all the jobs I'm applying for are jobs where there's a signpost, where people have already gone before. It's, it's just the same old, and that's not what I want. I want to be the way forger. I want to go down new paths. I want to make, so they suddenly realized they were applying for the wrong jobs, and or using the wrong language to describe the jobs. And they got all of that from just exploring crossroads, in that instance, a crossroads in the botanical gardens.
Wow.
So, so the podcast is very much about, if you want to turn a corner, go into nature and turn a corner. And just notice what you notice before the corner. Notice what you notice as you go around the corner. Notice what you notice once you've gone around the corner. And I can guarantee, well, can't guarantee that 100%, but I suspect 80% of people will get some insight by just turning that corner.
Right. That is interesting. Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting.
It's talking to a different part of us that does. See, I believe we all know what we want to do. We all have the answers within us.
Yeah, we do.
So the tools are just a different means of accessing that inner knowing, because we know the answer. We don't have to look outside ourselves for the answer.
No.
But logic is not helping, because logic is defending. It's got a fear attached to it. It's got a whole load of beliefs attached to it. So we have to I word it as, we're sending logic and the story we're telling about the situation on a coffee break. So we're sending it on a coffee break, we're putting it to one side, and then let's allow that inner knowing to talk to us through metaphor, to nudge us to realize something that we already know. And that's why it's so powerful, because the advice they're getting is from within them. And they notice, oh yeah, I'm like that tree. I need my roots to be a bit firmer, or whatever,
Oh, yeah. It's interesting what we have to do to get to where we want to go. Even though we know where we're going.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And sometimes we know where we're going. We know the short route to where we're going. But like you said, all the diversions, we just divert, and it takes us a longer route.
Well, and to be fair, I wrote a poem, Paths and Destinations, and I did think that poem was going to be written about how to get to a destination quicker. But what actually what ended up coming out of my pen onto the paper was, sometimes it's not about the destination. Sometimes it's about just having fun. Sometimes it's just about going to a vantage point, and it's only when we get to the vantage point that we can see all of the options, that we can make a better decision. Or you know, oh, well, we're on a dead end. And, you know, there's a belief about whether it's a dead end or not. So I think, yeah, it's really interesting that you can explain. One of the things that quite often people will say is, yeah, I want to go along those paths, you know, new paths less traveled. It's like, I want to forge my own path. But I was in a wood the other week, and right in front of me, it was just all this bracken. It was, I mean, you just couldn't, unless you'd got something to cut through it.
Yeah.
Or you were an adventurer. You just, I just looked at it and went, that is not the path I want to forge. You know, I'm quite happy to go to a field that's got no paths and go, oh, I've got 360 degrees worth of easy choice. Oh, I'm going to go, you know, southeast or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the sort of new paths I want to go on. I don't want to go on a path that requires me to, you know, put protective gear on my hands and feet and get a scythe or something and cut everything back. So, and yet somebody else listening might be able to go, oh, Alison, standing in a field and having 360 degrees worth of choice sounds so boring. I want to get that axe, and yeah, I'm going to go into that wood and chop things back. But it then gives us information about the situation we're thinking about.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to your book, actually. So, the book that you authored, Can't See the Wood for the Trees. What inspired you to write that book?
I'd always wanted to write a book. I bored everybody to tears about I was going to write a book. When I started using nature as a metaphor, I thought, oh, and my hairdresser says, when somebody said, oh, how long have you been writing your book, Alison? And the hairdresser replied, 15 years, but this is the 5th version, because she'd heard me go, oh, I've written the book. And then it's like, no, I don't think that is the book. So,
Sorry.
So I'd written a lot of versions, but they would sort of fall off a cliff, I think, in terms of they weren't very accessible. Certainly, I mean, Landscaping Your Life works more now than it did 20 years ago because we've got TikTok, because we've got, you know, video blogs. So people can see, you know, got podcasts. Whereas back then, we just quite often just got the written word, and it was a bit flat. And it wasn't until I realized, oh, can't see the wood for the trees. People resonate with that. Stuck in a rut. So each chapter is just literally a different saying. And it tells a story of how somebody's got unstuck who had that saying. And then there's just different ways of using nature. So because there's not just one way of, you know, I've said go out and walk in nature, but you can draw it. You can imagine it. There's lots of different ways that you can use it. So the book just talks you through different ways of using nature. But the idea would be that you're stuck, and not unless you're a coach. If you're a coach, then you read it back to, you know, front to back, because you get more of the insight about the techniques. But if you're there and you're stuck, you literally just open the index, go, oh, okay, it's chapter 6 that I resonate with. Yeah, you know, I feel like a fish out of water. Let me go and read that chapter. Or, oh yeah, I'm up a creek without a paddle. And then just read the chapter. So quite often all you've got to do is read the chapter.
Okay.
Rather than the whole book.
Rather than the old book. But if we read the chapter, we would ultimately read the old book anyway.
Yes, over time. I think the thing is I describe it more as a sort of a reference manual, that you have it there.
Right.
So one person described it as a first aid kit for the mind, that it's a process they go to when they're struggling. It's like, oh, I'm overwhelmed about this situation. Right, let me go to, and you know, the podcast's a bit similar to that. And there's more sayings in the podcast because there's over 60 episodes at time of recording. So so you could sort of pick a chapter, pick an idiom, pick an episode, and then go, okay, I'll listen to this episode or I'll read this chapter, and that should be enough to give you an insight about how to get unstuck in the situation that you're stuck about.
Right. Okay. So what key takeaways do you hope readers will gain from it then?
Just how to get unstuck. And I think it's how quickly we can go from being stuck to unstuck.
Okay.
Because it's about our mindset. It's like when we're stuck because we believe there are no options. We can't see the options, and therefore we've got this belief that there isn't anything else to do. And we've sort of, I suppose, given our power away, because as soon as we're stuck, we quite often believe, oh, somebody else has got to come and save us. And the techniques are all about, no, it's just a belief. You're just not seeing the whole picture. You're perhaps only seeing 10% of the view. And let's just get 360 degrees view of the situation.
Yeah.
And then, things calm down. Then you're able to see what you need to do. And then you're able to do it. And so I think it's that. I think it's the ease with which we can find solutions, so long as we send logic on a coffee break. So I suppose that's the other thing. Send logic on a coffee break.
Yeah, you're right there. Let's divert a bit to your coaching and speaking. So in your coaching and speaking engagements, you emphasize more about adding fun, laughter, joy, and connection. So how do these elements enhance the personal development journey for your clients and audience?
Well, I suppose there's a number of reasons. I think the main thing is when we're stuck, then we can get quite negative and none of those things. And therefore our brain associates, none of those things. So, stuck, might be angry, might be frustration with lack of options. So laughter just enables us to shift that thinking a bit. So it's the joy. If we can bring more of that, I mean, I'm not saying that every situation is something to feel joyful about, and therefore it's not about wheeling joy and laughter into every situation. But sometimes it's a bit like, I'll give you the example that I did a podcast episode about beating ourselves up with a stick.
Okay.
And it was about it was about gathering the sticks. So it's like I was imagining, right, go and gather the sticks I imagine I used to beat myself up, and then I'm going to throw them away. But the laughter came when I realized I was at the top of a hill. Oh, there are no sticks. And then the laughter came because it was, yeah, but I bet you I've got sticks in my pack to beat myself up with. Are any of us ever somewhere where we haven't got a stick that we've picked up previously just in case, because we want to, beat ourselves up?
Yeah.
So I think there's a laughter about when we're using metaphor, it's much easier to laugh at the pattern, to go, what you mean? I'm at the top of a hill, but because I want to beat myself up with a stick, I've had to carry some sticks up the hill with me. What? And it just enables us to see the nonsense, really, that we've got ourselves into, that says, you know what? I'm not going to pick sticks up to beat myself up with at some point in the future.
Yeah. If we want to contact you for your service and also buy your book, how can we contact you, and how can we
there's lots of Alison Smiths.
Exactly. There's so many.
Yeah. So lots of Alison Smiths, but Landscaping Your Life will find me. So Landscaping Your Life on YouTube, Landscaping Your Life on Amazon even, because the book is called Can't See the Wood for the Trees, Landscaping Your Life to Get Back on Track. So if you say Landscaping Your Life on Amazon, you'd find me. Right. LinkedIn, it's there. TikTok, it's there. And Instagram, Facebook. So so if you do Landscaping Your Life, either as a hashtag or just the 3 separate words, you'll find me, especially if you had Alison on as well.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Lastly then, with over 2 decades of experience that you have, how have you seen the field of coaching and personal development evolve? And what advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a successful coach and speaker in today's world? Because the world has really changed and it's evolved.
Yes, I mean, there's more coaches now. There's more coaches now than there were. I think everybody's got very niched. So I think I'm very clear that I'm very good when somebody's stuck. Once somebody's on the path, I'm not great at holding their hand as they're walking on the path and they're happy. You know, I'm much better in the hole. I'm going to yank you out of the hole, help you get out of the hole, help you get back on track. But then I'll hand you over to another coach. So I think it's about being clear about, once you've learned the coaching skills and you know you've done your time of trying out, it's noticing where your expertise is, either in the tools that you use. So like mine, I suppose I generally use metaphor more of the time now. And I know that I'm aiming it at clients that were stuck. So I think it's about niching the clients and niching the tools and techniques that you use, and not being afraid to, try that, change it perhaps, see if there's a market and then change it. But it's not about being all things to all people, because then people don't know, they don't know what you stand for. So I think from a marketing perspective, because there are more coaches out there, it's very much about somebody knowing, oh, that's me. Yeah, I am stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I am prepared to try something a little bit different. And perhaps I have tried other things already.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I'm prepared for something a little bit different. I'll go to Alison.
Okay.
Or or whatever. Oh yes, because I've been on podcast episodes where somebody's a menopause coach or a divorce coach, and it's at least they've got the tools and techniques that help people in those situations. They understand the feelings, they understand the issues. So I think it's that. I think it's find your ideal audience and find the tools that work for that ideal audience.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on our show today. Any inspirational advice for our audience out there?
Other than sending logic on a holiday, I think I'll take it from nature, which is, we can get so impatient these days. Mm-hmm. And yet, if we look out the window, nature is just full of patience. It's like, the sunset comes at a set time after sunrise, So why, sometimes it feels in life that we're trying to bring sunset forward. And it's like, yes, it does come forward slowly up till, solstice and the like. But and the seasons, it's like when sometimes it's as if we're sitting there in the winter and we want it to be summer already, and we've got to go, in most areas in the world, we've got to go through spring. Now, not all of these patterns relate to every area of the world, just because of longitude and latitude and things. But and the other thing I think is about the planting a seed. It's like we plant a seed and we know it's going to take a while to germinate, and we just need to nurture it and water it, not keep poking it going, why have you not grown yet? Which is what we do for ourselves. It's like we don't and tides, tides, there's a tide every 12 and a half hours, and yet we always act as if this one tide, I've missed it, and oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's like, no, there's another tide in 12 and a half hours time. Let's just spend those 12 and a half hours preparing for that tide so we're ready for it. Yeah. So I think, so for me, it's the patience element and the perfect timing of nature that we can look to and learn from.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is very true. Patient and perfect timing. And the timing for everybody is different. So thank you so much for coming on our show today. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Thank you for the conversation. We've really enjoyed. And I'm sure we've learned and benefited from your wisdom.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And it's goodbye from myself and Alison. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Mission to Inspire. Subscribe if you have not already done so. Like, comment, leave a message. Let's stay connected. Let's jointly inspire the world.